Hey everybody, Movie Review Next Door here, and I'm back with another review. It's been a while, had some things going on, and I've been binging some anime that I'll have reviews for sometime soon. This time I watched a movie that a friend recommended me, and it was Dragon Wars D-War. This film is from 2007, directed by Shim Hyung Rae. It is a fantasy action monster film, and it stars Jason Behr, Amanda Brooks, Robert Forster, Craig Robinson, and Elizabeth Pena. In this film, based on a Korean legend, unknown creatures will return and devastate the planet. Reporter Ethan Kendrick is called in to investigate the matter. Now, what did I think of Dragon Wars D-War? Well, I had fun with it. Now, this is one of those films that has really low ratings. On IMDb, it has a 3.5 out of 10. On Letterboxd, it has a 1.8 out of 5. So it seems a lot of people hate this film. I don't. Now, here's the thing. With that, if you're a person who watches a lot of this type of film, these like like kaiju, because that's what this kind of feels like, a kaiju movie, but I'll explain what makes it a bit different. A kaiju movies or disaster films, yes, there are much better disaster films. There are better disaster films with better characters, more enjoyable characters, or interesting ones with better acting, better effects, better looking monsters. But there's something about this that kind of clicked with me a bit. Um, but let me get to the cast first. Jason Behr plays Ethan Kendrick. He is a reporter as part of this prophecy. Um, he's all right. The I will say the acting is not one of the better things about this film, and it does drag it down a bit. I recognize him from films like Pleasantville. He was in a movie called The Tattooist, which I haven't seen yet, but he was all right. Um, Amanda Brooks plays Sarah Daniels. She's very suspect acting wise, and it doesn't help that she's not given a ton of screen time. Um, Robert Forster plays Jack. He's all right too. I've always liked Robert Forster. He's one of those actors that I can just watch in a movie endlessly. He's got a great screen presence, and he does get his small moments to shine. But yeah, Craig Robinson is Bruce. He's Ethan's cameraman. Um, he does his thing. He's comedic relief, kinda. And Elizabeth Pena's agent Linda Perez. She's not in the film that much. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Pena. She'll be missed. She died in 2014. She wasn't that old, and I remember her from films like Jacob's Ladder, um, Blue Steel, which this if you know Blue Steel, you know a scene involving her that at least to me was very heartbreaking because that's a rough movie in some places. But here's the thing with this movie. Again, this movie does not have the greatest of effects, but it makes up for that with the creativity of the monster designs. Because these monster designs are based in Korean legend. Um and there's some really cool designs. There's a really cool serpentine monster that like the amount of details that they got into these creatures and how they move and stuff is insane. Because they could have just had it be like, oh, it rushes through the city. No, it slithers side to side like an actual cobra does, or whatever type of snake it was supposed to be. Um, and there's like later it like goes up a tower, and instead of going straight up, because if it's a fake monster, who cares? Because it's based on a true thing, it goes around the tower like a real snake does. It I like those little details like that because it shows that the director was trying to make something interesting here. Um, And apparently, this was the first Korean film to get a wide theatrical release in America, which I'd say that's a pretty cool feat. And again, I didn't mind this one. There's you can tell that a lot of hard work went into rendering the scenes in this movie because there are a lot of scenes that are very chaotic, a lot of stuff happening at once. Yes, again, there are some shots that don't look really good at all. There's a shot near the beginning of soldiers running in, and then you cut to another shot where it's clearly people in. Well, there's kind of supposed to be soldiers because there's like henchmen of these like monster things. And there's an overhead shot that's clearly CGI, so I don't know why that needed to be there. I guess because they wanted a very specific shot. And again, this was before drones were readily accessible. Um, but for the most part, the effects of this film is 32. Um, uh, uh, the effects here for a movie of this budget are not that bad. They aren't. They're pretty they're pretty good effects. So I'm wondering how much money of the budget went into the effects because it seems like, and I hope the effects people got paid well because that's one of the biggest things in Hollywood is you don't, the effects people don't get paid much. And, but yeah, there's some really interesting monster designs. My favorite personally is the tank monster. It's like this giant kind of turtle looking monster that has two legs at the front. It kind of drags its back along and it has these like rocket launchers on its back. It just looks sick. I love it. And I know it's a villain, whatever. But yeah, it's like a very interesting I like all of these interesting designs and it kind of makes me wish it makes me want like a TV series about these monsters or something or like another movie because one of the issues I have with this movie is that it kind of jumps around. It's one of those movies that feels like it. Sorry about that. There was a cat. Um, it's one of those movies that kind of jumps through the plot kinda at times to get to the action. And not that I hate that part about it, but it also has really weird pacing. Like the first 20 minutes of the film is setting up the backstory of these creatures and the like main character um and all of this like Korean mythology and it is very interesting, but it also makes me feel like something is kind of missing, which is because it kind of felt like this big long info dump at the beginning of the film a bit. And I mean, again, I enjoyed a lot of the action that happened throughout, but that at the beginning, I was like, shouldn't this have been a bit like truncated or like not truncated, but spaced out a bit to have the pacing flow a bit better? Because it does kind of just go hardcore. Like once you get into the last 45 minutes of the movie, it's hardcore, just like monster action, monster action, monster action, and it's a bit much all at once. But I did find out there is a 110-minute cut of this film because the cut I watched was 90 minutes. Just under 90 minutes. And the original cut that went to film festival, I don't think it has been released. I tried looking for it. I couldn't find it. I watched this on Tubi. Um, but if that cut ever comes out, I'd like to see it and see what's missing because another one of my issues is that the characters are kind of just there. And I understand that's how it is with a lot of the Godzilla films, with the kaiju movies. The characters are kind of just there to experience everything happening, so you could put yourself in their shoes. And I think building them up a bit more as characters would have gone a long way with that, because Jason Bear and um, Amanda Brooks's characters don't really feel like they have much of anything to do. They don't. They kind of just feel like they're there. And with how the film was described to me, I kind of felt like, oh, there was going to be a bit more having to do with them and this prophecy. And there is technically at the end, but there's not really any build up to it. It kind of just goes from, oh, he's a normal reporter guy to warrior. And if there was a bit more build up with that, I feel like it would have been a bit more of an earned moment at the end. Um, but yeah, like that did feel a bit off to me. Um, the acting again, yeah, the acting for the most part from a lot of the extras, like the army people that come in to like try to take down the monsters, is a bit suspect and again not the greatest. And again, this film does feel like it kind of rushes to the end because the ending does feel like it's either missing something, like the last frame that you get of actors on the screen, it's like, wait, that's where it ends? And again, this is kind of why I can't say it's a better film than this. And again, I can understand people not being into this type of film, but a 3.5 out of 10, really, that rating means like the film is like almost complete garbage. And I really don't see that because there's a lot of work, there's a lot of hard work that's gone into this film. For something like Manos: The Hands of Fate, where the film was made just purely out of spite and as a dare, like, oh, I can make a horror film. This is way better than Manos: Hands of Fate. And I know Manos: Hands of Fate has a lower rating than this, but putting it near the same rating as Manos: The Hands of Fate, really, it just feels very unfair. And it feels like people are just, you know, being cynical assholes just to be cynical assholes. But yeah, another thing I will praise this film on is the music. The score by let me look up his name real quick. Steve Jablonsky. The like music playing like during the like slow like emotional moments and also the big like battle scenes is really good. It's really good music. And I would love to listen to the like OST sometime so I can get a better listen to at it because this film does have a bit of a problem with sound mixing where you'll go from a dialogue scene that's super quiet and you have to turn the volume up super loud. And then it goes to this big battle scene where shit's exploding and buildings are falling and shit. And it's like, it's an issue with a ton of movies. It's not just this movie. But yeah, it's just like, eh, it is an issue. It did annoy me kind of because I was like, again, I was watching it with someone. Mm. And it did kind of just go back and forth from super loud to super quiet, and it did get annoying. And one of the things I think uh, is the reason we don't have amazing acting in the film. The director is Korean. Now, I'm not saying this just because he's Korean, but I do think that this was a an American Korean co-production, American South Korean co-production. And with a lot of films like that, you they'll try to get American actors that they can sell. And even though the poster of this movie doesn't really feature anyone's names prominently, I can tell they tried to do that by getting some like character actors that are recognizable and some actors that at the time were kind of up and coming. Jason Behr, um, Craig Robinson, and Robert Forster, big character actor, played villains in a lot of films. There's Retta, who's a comedian who was on Parks and Rec. Um, you've got plenty of TV people. You have Mike from Mike and Molly. I can't remember the actor's name right now as a night guard. Matthias Hughes is apparently in the film at some point. I did not catch him. Um, but yeah, you can tell that they tried to like get names in the film that people would recognize and like to see in the film. And again, a thing that happens in a lot of those, like Matt Damon in The Wall, you don't get their best performances because usually the director doesn't have a big grasp on English. So it does come off a bit weird, the acting in this film. But it also kind of reminded me of the Godzilla version that we got in America back in the day where they kind of like shoved in an American actor. Um, I forgot who it was, but they shoved in a random actor like at a news desk randomly throughout the movie, and it kind of cut the pacing like and it really didn't help the pacing, and it just kind of felt unneeded. Um, but it kind of felt like that in the way that it was like, oh, who can we get to sell to Americans? And I'm like, wi- again, this film is a better way of that because it's actors that are involved in the proceedings. With the Godzilla like American, not even a remake, it's like a special edition. It's like a Star Wars special edition but for Godzilla, where it's just like an actor shoved in. It does feel very ham-fisted. But otherwise I didn't mind this film. I thought it was pretty decent. I don't watch a lot of these films. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it, because it's something a bit different than I usually watch, because I'm mostly action or horror or sci-fi. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. There's some stupid stuff, yes, for sure. But I think it handles the material pretty well, and if they ever make a follow-up to this, I'd be up to watching it. So that was my review of Dragon Wars D War. If you've seen the film, comment down below. Let me know what you want me to see, and movie review next door.